themes in your groups as people were sharing some of the more important things? Were there some things that stood out that maybe many or all of you all said, oh, that was important, I'm glad I learned that? And if so, what might some of those be? Clayton?
I'd say for our group, we pretty much all put either the teaching philosophy or kind of the style which we thought was, or at least I thought was kind of similar as the central goal, with all these elements either radiating from it and feeding into it.
Yes,
a lot of times both.
Teaching philosophy or teaching style. Before this semester, how many of you had ever really thought about your teaching philosophy or teaching style? Or even realized, okay, some of you had, good. How many of you think that your teaching philosophy or teaching style maybe has evolved a little bit based on what you learned? You realize it's okay to be creative and innovative, and you don't have to do it just the way that folks taught you. It can be different. Good. What are some other themes that came out?
This semester you may have several things to do. It's based on the students and their rate of learning. You can't cover everything that is on the whole syllabus. You have to kind of always readjust to
Okay.
their pace of learning.
Yeah, so to start out with at least a well thought of set of objectives, but to give yourself the permission to be adaptive based on individual students' needs. Good. Maybe one or two more? Go ahead, Clayton.
But another thing we were talking about right at the end just was that kind of this course helped a lot of us realize how much effort it takes goes into being a good teacher.
And you use the right attitude. To be a good teacher, it takes a lot of effort to be a good teacher.
But also how important it was to find balance so that you're not like completely overwhelmed with one aspect of either teaching or your research.
That's an excellent point. And you know, a couple of weeks ago on the panel, I think you guys talked about that. But and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but early in your career, you guys will probably periodically get out of balance because that big NSF proposal's due next week, and you just kind of forget to plan for your class, or you got to grade all your finals, and so you didn't get that article reviewed as quick as you want. Some of you have already been there, I can see. Yeah, so it's good to at least strive for balance and work towards that. So excellent. And our folks online, we're talking about several things: clear objectives, student attention span, engaging students. Good, good. And so over the course of the last 11 weeks, we talked about a lot of things, and for most of these topics, we barely scratched the surface. And so I hope that you realize, and listening to you guys, I think you do realize that to be a good and effective teacher, it takes continued effort on your part to continue to learn about new things. So I encourage you to stick with that. So as our culminating speaker, as I mentioned earlier, we've got Dr. Elaine Turner from the CALS Dean's office, and she's going to talk to us about one of the reasons, or really our only reason of being here as a teacher is because we have students in our classes. So she's going to talk to us about students. So, thank you, Elaine.
Thanks, Grady.
Let me give you this. They probably don't want to hear me in the back. They'd probably rather listen to you. Yep.
To find a place to wire up. This wasn't the best thing to wear when it was cold because I have no pockets. They look like pockets, but they aren't real pockets. I don't have any place to put my freezing hands. Is that close enough? Does that work?
Yep.
All right. Well, good morning. How's everybody doing? We're almost graduating. It's so exciting. I'm between you and graduation. This is a topic we could talk about all day, advising and mentoring students. We're not going to talk all day. We're going to just have a little bit of time to, again, as Grady mentioned, give you some ideas. And as you evolve in your faculty roles or whatever it is that you end up doing with your career, it may not be a faculty role, but there will probably be some elements of advising and mentoring in your career, no matter what you do. I think the topic is very relevant. And really by advising and mentoring, talking about working with students or working with someone outside of a formal classroom. So it's really kind of a broad topic. So what I want you to do first is think about you as an undergraduate student. Think back. You as an undergraduate student. and start to picture in your mind one or two people who were influential. Who do you remember from your undergraduate experience? Take a few minutes and get somebody or a couple of people in your mind. And who did you think of?
Joe Sheldon.
Joe Sheldon. And who was Joe Sheldon in your undergraduate experience?
He was my biology professor.
Okay. Okay. And why did he come to mind?
He was serving to like students that he had with various. He retired the same year I graduated from undergrad.
Okay.
So just to put in perspective where he was at grad school, I see those people as kind of professors that are near retirement age.
Okay.
He's very eager and just as passionate about students as I'm sure that he had hired. Investment in students by
Okay, so an effective teacher, but also very engaged outside the classroom, retaining a passion for working with students throughout a long career. Would that be a fair summary? Okay, equipping students for life. Cheryl, who's in your mind?
Well, my major advisor, Dr. Burgess.
Okay.
When I first came to US, I was 21 years old, and she was really instrumental in getting me interested in food science. Initially, I did not have an interest in food science. I was given a scholarship, and that was it. And I was decided that if I wanted to be a physical therapist initially, and so I felt that if I did not like the curriculum, I would have deferred it next year from school. And so she really changed my mind about the whole field. She got me involved in research, undergraduate research with some graduate students, and that helped me to give me a better idea of what I was getting into, and that led to my master's. And also, outside of class, she gave me my first birthday cake. So she was very nice in getting me acclimatized here in the U.S. Besides being my academic advisor, and so I remember her a lot for that.
Okay. So she really sparked an interest in what's now become your future career direction.
Yes.
But also knew enough about you personally that knew when your birthday was, and maybe also helped you do some transitioning. That's great. One of our distance folks, someone that's come to mind. Let's see. Let's pick on AJ. AJ, who comes to mind for you in your undergraduate experience?
Turn your microphone on, AJ.
Well, I had my undergrad degree almost 14 years ago. uh, I can remember, and it was India. It was in India. I remember a few of my professors. One of them was Dr. Khurana. Uh, I think I liked him. He was very charismatic, very knowledgeable, and I think he was the only professor actually who did some experiential teaching actually. We did not have many outdoor labs and those. He was a plant breeder, by the way. And he also would talk about various opportunities available for our majors, which not many professors talked about during course teaching. So he often comes to me, and I actually try to mimic him when I teach actually. So I think
Someone who was a good teacher, but also made some investments outside the classroom, laboratories, trying to connect students to career opportunities. Those are terrific examples, and I'm sure if we went around, we would have lots and lots more. But so what I want to talk a little bit about is what are some of the ways that you may develop as a mentor. I just part of the reason I was late was I was doing 2 new faculty interviews, and one of the things I ask every faculty candidate is I ask them some things specifically about teaching, but then I ask them about graduate student mentoring because that's an expectation of all of our tenure track faculty. And I ask them what they would like their students to say about them. So in a similar setting, if I had their graduate students and said, what is this person like as a graduate student mentor, what would I hear? What would they like to be known for? And again, that becomes then part of your advising and mentoring philosophy. It may have been part of your overall teaching philosophy when you wrote that, or maybe you were only thinking about classroom teaching when you wrote your philosophy statement. I like to think of advising and mentoring as all part of teaching because there's a lot of teaching that goes on outside the formal classroom. So as you continue to evolve in your teaching philosophy, think about what philosophy or approach you have for advising and mentoring. So I'm talking about advising and mentoring, and there's sort of a continuum here of working with students outside the classroom. If we were to try to define a difference between advising and mentoring, to me advising sounds a little bit more formal. Academic advising in particular may be a process of guiding students in a curriculum. What courses do I need to take? Do I have room to do study abroad? Can I do a minor? What would it mean to do a double major? So academic advising can be pretty specific, where mentoring tends to be a little bit broader and often more of a personal relationship. Sometimes, and particularly in large undergraduate programs, we don't have any choice about who our academic advisor is. We often are assigned to an academic advisor, or there's just one place that we go for academic advising. Whereas our mentors, we choose most of the time. Sometimes you don't get as much of a choice, but most of the time we choose our mentors. And so as a mentor, you may be chosen by students for whatever reason. That relationship as a mentor tends to be a longer one than an academic advisor. An academic advisor tends to be a finite period of time, although may grow into a mentoring relationship with a student for whom you were an academic advisor. I can give you a great example that was just part of my long weekend. My long weekend was spent at a conference in Washington, D.C. So, oh well. At least my email inbox didn't fill up too much because everybody else was on some holiday breaks. But I got to have dinner with a former student who was one of my academic advisees when he was doing his degree in nutritional sciences. And I haven't really been involved in his career a couple of times. A lot of these students for whom you work with as an academic advisor come back for letters of recommendation over time. So you have a longer term relationship. But it was really interesting to see how he's developed professionally. And I think because we had the chance to reconnect this time briefly, we'll continue to have that relationship longer time. So I've mentioned academic advising, but to me there's really 4 key ways that faculty interact with students formally or informally outside the classroom. One is simply as in your teaching role. In a teaching role, you are expected to have office hours, and that's by definition outside the classroom, a more informal kind of setting. And often the focus is on the class and people coming to ask questions about the class, but just as often, students' questions go beyond that. Want to know about your research, want to know about how you got into this position, why you decided to be a faculty member, what were the steps that you took, should I do this or that? So it may evolve into more of an advising and mentoring role, even if it started out as office hours. But office hours would be one way that faculty interact with students outside of class. A second would be in a formal academic advising role. And depending on if you do go into a faculty position, you may or may not have a formal academic advising assignment as part of your teaching assignment. That's going to vary from university to university, college to college, department to department. So you'll want to see in that job description whether academic advising, typically we think of academic advising as undergraduate students if that's part of your role. Here in the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences, we have a lot of faculty members who are very involved in undergraduate advising, and we have many that are not involved at all. So there's certainly not part of everybody's portfolio of responsibilities. Depending on what that assignment looks like, you may need to learn the policies and procedures surrounding the undergraduate curriculum. You may need to learn about different courses in that curriculum, or how a minor will fit, or whether you can do a double major, where study abroad would fit. Fortunately, the advising support is good, and we think in the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences we provide good support here, but you'll get some training and mentoring yourself on how to become an academic advisor. One of the best ways that I learned to become an academic advisor was observing others. I came in as a new faculty member into the Department of Food Science and Human Nutrition with a large teaching assignment. And part of that was to do academic advising. There was a faculty member who was leaving within the month to go on sabbatical, and I inherited her 80 academic advisees, her 80 undergraduate students. I had informally advised students in a previous role, but I had never done any formal advising. So I had a month to kind of get some nuts and bolts from her as to what I needed to do with students. But then for probably the remainder of the year, when I ran into a difficult situation, I picked up the phone, I called one of the other academic advisors and said, I have this student with this question in my office, can we come to your office? And we went to that faculty member's office, and the student asked the same question, and I listened very carefully to how that faculty member answered the question. And that's how I learned a lot about academic advising, was observing others. So it's part of learning, and if that's part of your future assignment, again, there will be support for you to do that. Sometimes faculty involved in academic advising have more of a role of a career coach than a what do I take next semester kind of role. For many of our departments, again, food science and human nutrition has evolved this way over time. We have professional staff who take care of the day-to-day, what do I take next semester? I'm thinking about dropping this class. Where do I go for tutoring? And the faculty member becomes more of a, what can I do with this degree? Should I go to graduate school? What do I need to do to prepare for graduate school or professional school? So the role can kind of shift. But academic advising, we tend to think of as working with undergraduate students in helping them navigate through their undergraduate program and prepare for whatever's next. Faculty also get involved with students outside the classroom in club advising and activities. And so, again, in a faculty role, you may have an assignment or you may volunteer to work with a particular student organization, and your involvement in that organization may be very extensive or very limited. You may just talk with the leadership team when they need you, or you may be at every club meeting, and that can vary depending on the needs of the organization, your particular interests, whatever it is. Again, that's a great opportunity for mentoring students, helping them develop skills, teamwork skills, leadership skills, and so that can be very rewarding for faculty to get involved. And then there's kind of the broader mentoring, and we, again, think of graduate student advising as more of a mentoring relationship. We talk about graduate student mentors. Your supervisory committee chair is typically your primary graduate student mentor, but there may be others. And then there may be also mentoring of undergraduate students in terms of undergraduate research or special projects, um, those sorts of relationships that are really not curriculum, but they're more developing skills or developing projects, particularly in undergraduate research. So right now, how many of you would say you are a mentor to someone? Somebody in the lab, somebody in, okay. Okay, so several of you. If you find that rewarding, we'll phrase it that way, what do you find rewarding about that? About being a mentor, having students or others that you're working with, helping them develop?
For instance, I'm not really formally an advisor or anything like that, but I do teach a class, and one of my students told me, she said, Dr. Rock, when I first came in your class, I was very intimidated because, it's a new experience for me. I'm new in college, and, I don't like to critically think about anything, but the way you teach your class, you're really our friend and mentor, and you help us to see how our learning can relate to future career. So I really want to stay in contact with you after, this class is finished because I think you have a lot to offer in terms of advising. So I think it's very rewarding when your students tell you that because you see your purpose is not only like it's a lecturer or something like that, but more of a mentor. So it's rewarding. Yes.
Okay, okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think it's working with some graduate students on a project. I'm also almost like fun to work as a team, make discoveries together.
It can be very energizing and you're right. Your role as a graduate student mentor, whatever your level is, at the postdoc level, at the faculty level, it is more of a collaborative relationship than it is a coaching relationship. It's more collaborative. You're both learning. You may, in the future, have graduate students that want to delve into an area that's related to yours, but you don't know much about. And that is a collaborative learning event. Okay. What challenges have you faced in your role as a mentor? Any challenging situations, challenging questions, challenging students?
So I've primarily mentored undergraduate students in my lab work, which is mostly genetics and microbiology, which surprisingly I have no background in. So
Okay.
every now and again we have these microbiology, upper level undergraduates in the lab that actually know a lot more about traditional microbiology than I do. So I'm not always able to on the research, but that's always just kind of fun. That's always a little bit of a challenge.
But because of your experience, help them start to find the answer.
Yes, I mean, we do a very specialized subset in our lab. So what I offer them mainly is really guidance on basically the scientific method, how to design the experiments where they're actually gaining the knowledge. And to me, that's the most rewarding part. Gain confidence in their abilities in the lab and ask their.
It's always exciting when you see people excited about what you're excited about.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the best aspects of mentoring is to incite that passion in others and give them something new. Maybe they hadn't thought about, a direction they hadn't thought about, or an area of study they hadn't thought about. So let's go back to that person that you were thinking about initially, someone in your undergraduate program that made a difference in your life that you really, really, really remember. And we talked a little bit about some examples, but what are some characteristics of that person that you think made them a good mentor, a good advisor? What was it about them as a person?
I remember he used to make like concept maps, like tables, and put timelines on them, and that really helped me a lot to be more organized.
Okay.
I was an undergraduate, and I'm there was an exam I have to do it about organization skills.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. got
We can erase, you know.
Can we erase any of that? Okay, so if we call this characteristics, and so he really taught you about. I'm going to summarize that as structure. Is that fair? Okay. What's another characteristic? Something that, let's see, if I can figure out of this, a characteristic of someone that you remember.
Beer.
Right. So they had, I'm going to put social time. But it wasn't just our relationship is only here at the office lab. That there's a personal aspect. Okay. What else? Makes a good mentor.
The he can read or he if he or she can really encourage the student to do this, to do that, it will be helpful because I think not most of, but when I was undergraduate student, I was not that active. So I mean, most of the time, if the professor tell me to do this, I will usually think about the difficult part, the difficulty. So if the and I remember one of my mentors, he really encouraged me to do this. And then after I finished the work, we discussed together, and then he usually give me some more confidence for the next step.
Okay, so encouraging you and building your confidence rather than just saying, here's a task I want you to do, really try to help you get going, maybe checking back along the way to make sure, but always giving you the sense that you could do it. Okay. That's another.
Relate to.
Pardon?
Relate to my she relates to me. She was saying I was in a situation before I was a student, so these are the things that I was faced with. So therefore, I'm telling you how it's going to be. So therefore, just relative
Okay.
for all situations.
Okay. So that can relate to your circumstances. And maybe they have or haven't walked in the same path as you, but can understand and are willing to understand where you're coming from and what maybe some getting in the way. AJ or Riza or Maud, what's a characteristic of an effective mentor that you've experienced?
Um, I think a good mentor has an eye to identify uniqueness in people. He knows what his strengths are, what weaknesses are, and then he should suggest a right path to him, for which he has some unique abilities and will be the best fit, and he can really thrive in that area. So I think a mentor should have an eye for those things.
So someone who can identify um, strengths and weaknesses. You use the word uniqueness, but understands you enough as a person to know, can see what your strengths and weaknesses are, what maybe you need to work on, maybe what challenges would be appropriate for you. Really kind of understands you as a person. A couple of things I would have
Um,
would be a great listener. Sometimes when we're in a mentoring or an advising relationship, it's easy to just want to jump in with the answer or tell the person what to do, right? You may have experienced that from both sides. A student comes to you with a question, or you go to someone with a question, and before the question's half out, they've got an answer for you. I think to be an effective mentor and really to get at some of these things, knowing the individual well enough to identify their strengths and weaknesses, we have to sit back and listen a little bit more and really understand what the question is, what the need is of the person before we jump in with advice. So developing good listening skills, I think, is important for good mentoring. I think another thing, as our society becomes diverse, as we become more equal in our interactions, to really have an awareness and appreciation of cultural differences, that people from different backgrounds approach life differently, approach studying differently, they approach relationships differently, they approach mentoring and asking for advice differently. And so being aware of those differences and being alert to them can be really helpful. And the other thing I think is important, wherever it is that you go in the future, is that you know what the resources are that are available for students. We as advisors or mentors can't solve every issue. So we need to be aware of what's available on campus, where can we direct people, where can we, again, pick up the phone. One of the things that's unfortunate for students at a large university is that oftentimes they are told, well, go there and see this person, or go here and then go there and then go there, or they get there and then they have to go over there and then they have to go back here. And sometimes we forget that picking up the phone can open a lot of doors for students. Just picking up the phone to say, I have this student who has this need, are you in your office, could you take a few minutes to talk to them? Rather than, here's the number. And so trying to be a little more personal in our directing students to resources, I think, can go a long way. My watch is falling off, so now I have to check.
10:52.
10:52. Okay, so I'm on track. Again, we could talk about this all day, but I really wanted to kind of get you thinking about advising and mentoring. This is my absolute favorite book about advising and mentoring. You can see it's not very long. That's one of the reasons I like it, as I like things that don't take very long. It's called Advisor, Teacher, Role Model, Friend. Specifically about students in science and engineering. It's not new. It's several years old by now, but it has some really great tips in it, and I'm going to share with you one set of those tips. I think Natalie, and we'll put it on Sakai, but I do have copies in the room. But it's, the title of the handout is Advice for New Mentors. And the very first thing is listen patiently, which is where I was going there at the end. That was listening is really, really important. Some of the things on here we've already talked about: building a relationship, simple activities, that conversation over coffee, nurturing self-sufficiency. You want people to be self-sufficient eventually, but they have to provide that helping hand. Networking is really important. But I want to just come down to the one at the bottom, finding your own mentors. We all need mentors at all stages of our careers. And again, this is the mentoring relationship. You get to select and choose people who will benefit you from their experience and what they're doing. You may, as a new faculty, be given a mentoring committee. You have mentors assigned to you, but you can also use networks and mentors and find others who can help you. So it doesn't stop at the end of graduate school or the end of your postdoc. We all need mentors for different stages and different reasons. The other things that I wanted to just mention to you, and I have a couple of handouts, are that anytime that you're working with students, particularly undergraduate or graduate students, there are some rules, policies, regulations that you do need to be aware of. And so I have another handout about confidentiality and privacy information. And I'm not going to talk about this, but just to make you aware that anytime we're in an academic institution, uh, there are elements of that student's academic record that are private and that students may share with you, but you need to be very cautious about who you share that information with. The simplest thing, if a student shares something with you and it's really outside of the bounds of your position, absolutely talk about it with your postdoc advisor, who you work with. Talk about it with a faculty member or the dean's office if you're not sure what to do with that information. The general rule of thumb in terms of student information and sharing that information is the academic need to know. So if this is a student in my college, I really have a broad need to know about students. You can tell me anything, okay? And I can then decide whether it needs to go anywhere else or what to do about it. So there's a person like me in every college, every university. There's always somebody like that who has broad responsibilities that you can talk to if you have any concerns about students. The other thing that I want to share, and it's kind of related, because because we're around students, because we're around really people in general, there are times when students have issues that are outside the bounds of academics, outside the bounds of classroom experiences. The Division of Student Affairs created this folder a few years ago, but it's turned out to be a real handy source of information. It's entitled Helping Students in Distress, and this can range from students who are disruptive in the classroom to telling you in the research lab that they're living in their car and don't know where the next meal's coming from. It can be a whole range of things. And this just identifies some of the steps that you might take if you have a student in distress. There's a parallel decision tree for employees in distress, but essentially the same kinds of information. And the bottom line is that, again, if you have an issue with a student, whether it's academic, whether it's personal, whether it's distress, disruption in your classroom, causing problems in your lab, and you're not sure who to talk to, I would always start with your immediate supervisor. But again, you can always come talk to someone in my position. Again, exists at colleges and universities all over the nation. But you can always come talk to me about a student that you're concerned about. We've also created a system on campus for trying to reach out to students who may be having issues. The overall program is called You Matter, We Care. You with the you. And if you have someone that you are concerned about, out to them, and they will reach out to the student and try to find out what's going on and try to help that person get the resources that they need. Quite often our students are in distress or having issues, in part because they're really not sure where to go and who to ask for help. And we have many students who are reluctant to ask for help when they need it. And sometimes they need someone to come to them and say, how can I help? And so that's what this organization is specifically designed to do. So where I'm going to leave you, um, again, kind of thinking about some of this has come up and thinking about the mentors that you've had in your life. But I want to close with some reasons for being a mentor. Again, some of you have already mentioned this. One of the main reasons for being a mentor and striving to be a mentor is there's a lot of personal satisfaction that comes from it. Satisfaction from seeing that person who you work with achieve their goals and move on in a positive direction. It's very personally satisfying to think that you might have had a little bit to do with their measure of success. Attract good students. If you are a faculty member and you're known as being a caring, effective graduate student mentor, who gets the best students, the best mentors. So there's another reason for investing some time in being a good mentor. By being a good mentor and having that productive relationship with students, it's another way that you stay on top of the field. They bring new creative ideas. They push you a little bit to learn more about your discipline, and so it's another way that you stay at the very top as well. It extends your professional network. And as we all know, that professional network is so key as you develop research collaborations, as you move into different positions, as you attract new students, and so you extend your professional network by being a good mentor. And finally, you extend your contribution to your discipline. By mentoring good students who go on and expand the area of knowledge, that's part of your legacy as well. Many faculty will talk about who their academic parents and grandparents and great-grandparents are and can trace back through that mentoring structure. And you can tell with a very much sense of pride at that legacy that was created and is passed down, that heritage of science that's passed down in your discipline. So I would encourage you to not only keep learning about teaching, but keep learning about mentoring and working with students and take advantage of opportunities to be a mentor. But never stop finding your own mentors and utilizing that as an resource for your career. So we might have a couple of minutes for a couple of quick questions. And any questions? Y'all want to graduate? I understand. Yes. So in a faculty role, I think it's going to vary by department and the size of department. At one point, I'm not trying to do this to scare anybody, but at one point as an academic advisor, I had 130 assigned advisors. But we also had professional staff that took care of, again, some of that day-to-day. I want to drop class, I want to do this. And so kind of like having a big class and having office hours, you may have a lot of advisees. They may or may not need much of you or of your time. Some programs, I think Family Youth and Community Sciences tries to keep their faculty advising number to about 25 or 30. Yeah, 15, 20, and some faculty have none. So some aren't interested in undergraduates, don't have skills. There could be lots of reasons why people are not involved in academic advising, and some departments have really chosen to rely almost exclusively on professional staff. I really like to see a balance of professional staff and faculty investment in academic advising, because I think the faculty member can really bring a lot to the table in terms of professional development, career guidance, networking, those sorts of things, where a professional advisor may or can learn, but doesn't have the direct experience typically in the discipline to help with that aspect. So it's really all over the map.
In our home department, we went away from faculty as advisors and went to professional advisor. I like that personally. I would say that way I was going to make a mistake on somebody's graduation when I was doing the academic advising. But the students always come to you as faculty for both, even if you're not formal. And they'll ask you about this professor taking that class.
All right, well, congratulations and graduation from Teachers College. This is a very exciting day. I graduated from a leadership program on Sunday, so I understand, it's kind of exciting to come to the end of things and get a certificate and some recognition. So I'm going to let Grady go on with that element. And well, again, my door is open to you. I'd love to say it's always open, but because I don't even know what's on the calendar tomorrow, a lot of days, I can't say you could just walk in. But if there's anything I can ever do for you, please don't hesitate to contact me. Call, make an appointment, email, whatever it might be. If there's anything that I can do for you related to the broad area of teaching and learning, I'm happy to do that. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So before we get to our official ceremony, a couple of logistical housekeeping sorts of things. And so those of you that have submitted syllabi and statements for the final versions, Al and I are going to work diligently to get some feedback to those. Optimistically, by the end of next week. Yeah. Okay. So by the end of next week, hopefully we'll have some feedback for you guys. Then there are a handful of you guys indicated that you want to do a practice seminar next week. And so those of you that have made arrangements with Natalie, we will be here next week to let you do that and give you some feedback on that. So graduation, and I was looking at this, and I feel a little bit of a disadvantage when our folks here graduate, and I don't know about where you graduate from, but they do a phonetic spelling of the name going on stage. And I just realized I don't have a phonetic spelling for everyone's name. And so I will apologize in advance if I don't say your name exactly right, but I will do my best. And so I want to start with our folks that are online. And so they've been very patient with us, kind of listening here and watching what we do and chiming in as they can. And so guys, we will I'll call each of your names real quick to show you this, and we'll get Natalie to drop these in the mail. So Riza, let's have a round of applause for Riza. Urka. Ahmad. And AJ. Now, what we will do too, we'll before we ever disperse in the front, we'll get a picture made, and we'll see if we can get these guys positioned where at least we see their heads. Okay, so when I call you, please come up. Isolde? Is that how you? Yeah. Melissa? Seth was doing very diligently. Congratulations. Aswati? Is that close? Congratulations. Cheryl? Congratulations, Cheryl. Jai Young? Okay. Aman? So your real diploma can go now. This one can take its place.
Thank you.
Yavaz? Jennifer? Piazza? Congratulations. Elena? That's a perfect for that. Congratulations. Daniel. Congratulations. And we? Lewis? Congratulations. Saying Hamitra? Well, it's hard too because the script font, some of the letters look a little bit different. So, congratulations. Come on. Is that close? Yes. Congratulations. And Ava. Congratulations so much. Okay, so if we would, let's gather up your certificates in hand, and we'll hold up the certificates, and we'll see if we can position these guys out to where, let me put the screen back there, that'll probably be okay. And maybe turn out the light helps or not. Yeah. Terry's here, perfect. We're about to take a picture, Terry. So let's gather around. I wonder, is there any way we can get all three across? Or is that even possible?
I was trying to do that, but
We're going to test Al's technology.
about something like that in one corner.
That might work.
You still want them to be there in the picture?
Yeah, we're trying to get them on the picture too.
Yeah,
So let's gather around in front here. We'll see how this works. Yeah, taller people in the back, shorter in the back. I'm always in the front.
Like this.
We're going to be staring into the lights too. Let's put you there. Let's put you there. You get to be called there.
All right, let's try. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll take one more just for.
How's it look with lights in people's faces?
It looks okay. We can.
Actually, yeah, let's do that. Why don't we go to the tab and find a TV because that way the light's not in people's faces. So remember where you are. Just run to the. We'll try one more. See, we don't have an official photographer like you come off graduation day. Right. Of course, we're a little bit more polite. Last time I had one of my students graduate, they were downright rude. Stand here, wait your turn. Stand over here, move here. Yeah, one of my PhD students. I'm trying to celebrate. Thank you guys. We'll have this jump into Title Line for probably a couple more months, but feel free to go grab anything there that you want to take. And if you missed any of the lectures, you want to go back and look at them. Those recordings, you can go back and look at them. Can you, is there a way they can save the recordings? I get to go congratulations. Thank you so much, and we'll see some of you next week, and enjoy your time. You can take your name tag out, you don't need those anymore.
Okay, guys, you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we got through it. It probably wasn't quite ideal, but I think the technology worked okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, what's that, Lisa?
We had a hard time to hear from you guys in the last minutes.
Yeah, he went to the back of the room, and the was probably out of the range of the microphone.
I see.
Yeah, but thanks for the pictures and stuff. I will send some handouts to you and get the links on the website. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you very
Thanks
much.
a lot. Bye. Bye.